welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We are coming here to you all over the country and the world from the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Great Lakes Honda City you can find on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. They are open for you Monday through Saturday, and I implore you to go out there to look at their new and used vehicles, their vast array of different vehicles as well, all different shapes and sizes for all different needs of all different families all throughout our community of Central and Upstate New York and beyond. So make sure you head out to Great Lakes Honda City today on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we got a jam-packed show. I appreciate your patience here this morning. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. We're going to start things off, as we always do, with our trio of signature segments on Friday. All three of these segments created on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora through Dan Tortora Broadcast Media many years ago. And we'll start off with the oldest segment that we have, the Annoying Moment of the Week, proudly presented by the company that we've worked with the longest, going into year 12 this year, and that is Carvel DeWitt. I want to thank Jay Cartini and his incredible team, and for everything that they do, on top of the fact that they allow us to have our own Sunday on the menu daily at Carvel DeWitt, and that is on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. We have the DT Dolphin, which is our ode to the Moyne Dolphins that are right down the street. It is mint chocolate chip topped off with hot fudge, whipped cream, a cherry, green and gold sprinkles, and a chocolate dolphin jumping out of your whipped cream. You can get the DT Dolphin exclusively at Carvel DeWitt 7 days a week, all throughout every season. So don't let the cold weather fool you, because that same great Carvel flavor is waiting for you today on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. Then we'll jump into Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver is what the acronym stands for. Proudly presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero. Today's topic is God's timing, something that I can do so much better with, and we're going to discuss it in just a few minutes. And then we'll jump into the top dog of the week. I will announce who my top dog is for this week, proudly presented by Canine Kamp Dog Daycare and Canine Kampground Dog Boarding. That's coming up in just a little bit. If Jerry is watching and listening, I think you'll definitely want to pay attention to that one, Jer. And then we'll jump into the college football playoff conversation continuation, and that's going to be by welcoming longtime collegiate football coach Mike Houston, who most recently was leading the East Carolina Pirates. And so very happy to have Mike Houston going to be joining the show in just a little bit at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time to talk all things college football playoff, as well as NIL, the transfer portal, and what is going on in collegiate athletics. Can we get any control over it? And his thoughts on how NIL is being used with the transfer portal. It wasn't meant to be, right? I don't think it was meant to be used together, but anyone could see that it was going to be used together, and unfortunately that's been happening, and tampering and all these other things that used to be wrong. Even if there was a little bit, it doesn't seem like anybody's shying away from the fact that there really are no rules, and some people are taking advantage of that very much so. And we'll talk about that with Mike Houston. The fact that there are teams that are inside of the college football playoff preparing for college football playoff games, trying to win a national championship, and their players are getting contacted by other schools asking them to jump into the portal and offering them money, allegedly. So we'll get into all of that and the college football playoff with Mike Houston at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. And as I said, we're very proud for over a decade, and we can now proudly say that they are our exclusive studio partner. All this time that we've spent together has blossomed into a great partnership, which has only grown, and I'm very happy to have them here with us. With that being said, let's jump right into the Annoying Moment of the Week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt.
Dan Tortora proudly brings you...
Is that for real? Are you kidding me?
The Annoying Moment of the Week.
I really, honestly, I don't know how to respond to this.
Presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street. It's what happy tastes like.
Do you have to be that crazy I guess so. The annoying moment of the week. Well, actually, folks, this week I got to do one earlier on this week because we were out traveling last week, so could not do it on Friday, as Friday was the bowl game for the Holiday Bowl. So I was doing my coverage of the DirecTV Holiday Bowl that Syracuse was out at a week ago today, and with them being out at the bowl game, I had the opportunity to speak on a bunch of different things surrounding that bowl, but I wanted to make sure that we did what we needed to do, the annoying moment of the week, as well as lead and the top dog of the week, the ingredients to success. So we made good on all of those this past Tuesday, which opened up the opportunity for us to get back on track here. So you're going to get another annoying moment of the week. And I could give you the same one because it happened again. I could say to you, the people going through the airport just hacking up a lung in front of people and just not seemingly caring at all. I do care if people are sick. I care if they have to travel no matter what. I feel bad for them. I understand. I can be there for you. I can pray for you. I can hope for you. I also look at the situation and I say to myself, what is going on in this world that we are in right now when, where people just don't seem to care about each other. They don't seem to, you may be sick, but that doesn't mean that you can't cover your mouth. You may be sick, but that doesn't mean that you can't think of other people. You may be sick and you might have to travel. You may have to get home for something or be on the road for something. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know what's going on in everybody's life. All that I ask is, if you're going to go out, if you're going to be in public, if you're going to put yourself around other people, have the common human decency to prepare yourself for that. If you know that you're sick, then bring something to make sure that you can cover your face. Bring something to make sure that you can protect yourself and protect others, right? You don't want to spread any of this stuff that's going on with you. I would think you don't want to spread any of this stuff that's going on with you. And so I would just hope and pray that people would start to actually care about other people. I can empathize with you that you don't feel good. I've had to travel before when I feel rotten, and but to me, I'm always thinking about you. I'm thinking about other people. I'm trying to make sure that other people are safe and sound because they have families and they have things that they need to do. So as much as I'm traveling and taking care of myself, I'm still thinking about other people. And I would ask that we start doing that. I would ask that we start caring about other people. I came home to go to my dad's birthday. So when somebody's out here coughing all over the place and not covering themselves, you're not thinking about me. You're not thinking about me. So let's see what we got here. And you're not thinking about anybody else. Let's see what Greg said. Happy Friday, DT. You should seriously consider bringing on Whistle Stop Florist or another local Salt City florist as a show sponsor. You have been forced to give out flowers on the daily to Notre Dame and Big Ten fans this playoff season. Greg, I think it's hilarious that you say that when I should be getting flowers and you and others don't give me them. So if you would like them, I think that you need to also supply them when needed. I have been right many times on predictions and have received no flowers. So I think in order to get flowers, you have to be willing to give them. I think we live in an equal society here. And I also want to make known something because apparently I can't get this through to anybody. I can't. Well, I shouldn't say anybody. Some people. I do not have anything against the Big Ten. I do not have anything against Notre Dame. They have unfair advantages in the polls. Their schedules do not have to be as competitive. They play unranked teams and get promoted for it. They lose to unranked teams and get promoted for it. They are commonly protected from year to year. So in a year where Ohio State and Penn State and Notre Dame are playing well, I'm supposed to apologize, even though I was right in all these previous years where they didn't play well, where Notre Dame went to the college football playoff twice and got embarrassed twice, when Ohio State got shut out by Clemson, when Ohio State and Michigan gave nothing to the college football playoff. They've only won one championship each in the last decade. They're not perennial contenders, yet perennially in the last few years they've been allowed to get into the college football playoff when there was only 4 teams in there. You have to differentiate between facts and non-facts. The facts are the Big Ten has an advantage in the polls. The facts are Notre Dame has an advantage in the polls. The facts are even though they've had the advantage, they didn't back it up. Now they're backing it up this year, so I'm supposed to apologize for all the previous years where they didn't back it up. I'm supposed to say that I was wrong on all the previous years when they got an unfair advantage. Again, I would say this about the SEC. Again, I would say this about the ACC. Again, I would say this about the American. If a conference is given an unfair advantage, I'm going to call it out. But I can't speak any slower, and I can't say it anymore, and I'm not going to go into the new year being a broken record, wasting time on my show trying to get through to people that don't want to hear it. I said if the Big Ten wins, despite their unfair advantage, and despite Notre Dame's unfair advantage, if they win, then they win, and then you give them credit. When have I ever come on this show and not given credit to the Big Ten? When have I come on this show and never given credit to Notre Dame? I said if they win the games in front of them, you give them credit. Notre Dame had a quality win against Texas A&M, and in my opinion, a quality win against Army. They just played Georgia without Georgia's starting quarterback in Carson Beck, and I have something to say about that in a second. But I guess this is my annoying moment of the week, because no matter how many times I say something, it's like the definition of insanity. I keep repeating myself trying to get through to people that don't want to listen. So the Big Ten has not proven me in exponentially incorrect the last 2 seasons, Greg. That's not true. The Big Ten has proven me right more often than not. But again, I'm not going to keep repeating myself to someone that doesn't want to hear it. So I can tell you that I don't have anything against the Big Ten. I can tell you that I don't have anything against Notre Dame. I've said it a million times on the show. I have spoken to fans of these schools that have admitted to me that they have an unfair advantage. I talked to somebody, a Notre Dame fan, that said we do have an unfair advantage. So they know it. You know it. This year they backed it up. This season they backed it up. Michigan last year won a championship amidst investigation and their coach being suspended multiple times. So I don't know how that's a win. But we look at the SEC, who also has an unfair advantage, but they back it up. So what have I said? The SEC's got an unfair advantage, but look at what they've done with it. Look at what Alabama and Georgia have done with that. Now, let's go to something that I consider important, since I don't want to repeat myself on my show anymore. And I'm going to say this one last time. If they win the games, you give them their flowers. I've said that on the show. I don't need anybody to tell me that. I give them their flowers. I have had multiple conversations off the air about what I want to say on the air. Ohio State has backed it up. Penn State has backed it up. Notre Dame has backed it up. Congratulations to them. Penn State has an incredible defense. I saw it live. I've said nothing but good things about Penn State. Ohio State's, and looking what they would done, looking at Ohio State, this is a team that typically is ranked in the top 4, if not the top 2, every year for the last umpteen years. And because it worked this year, Greg wants me to apologize about all the other years where it didn't work, because people like to forget about the times where it didn't work so that they can prove their point on the other side. But I'm a fair person. Fairness is Ohio State didn't back it up many years leading into this year. This year they backed it up. And I've also said multiple times that Ohio State has fantastic players that go to the NFL. I have never gone against Ryan Day saying he's not a good coach. I did not like the way that Ohio State and Michigan played, or the way that they acted toward each other at the end of their game. That there was little to no sportsmanship there. But in that rivalry, and that's happened in other rivalries across college football. But I don't like living in this PC world, where when I'm right, I get no credit, and when I'm wrong, I get blasted. And people twist my words around. Fran Brown said something in his introductory press conference, and I agree with this. He said, if you twist my words around and basically you twist apart what I said, I'll never speak to you again. And I live by that. To me, I am an honest person, and I'm going to make predictions. And I have had more right than wrong over history, I would like to thinking back to the things that I had right. And when I have those right, I get a little credit. Sometimes I get total silence. When I'm wrong, everybody wants to come out and tell you that you're wrong. So, like I said, I'm not going to say it anymore. Riley Leonard is a friend. Okay? So never once this season did I say Notre Dame is a bad team. They suck. They're horrible. I hate Notre Dame. Never did I say that. I said Notre Dame has an unfair advantage in the polls. That's all I said. That's all I said. Because if Syracuse lost to Northern Illinois, they wouldn't be ranked the rest of the year. That's what I said. Prove me wrong. Ask a Syracuse fan about that. If they lost to Northern Illinois, would they be ranked that year? Just ask. Simply ask. See, I do my research and I do my homework. And if I don't do it, then I have to go do it so that I can figure out if what I'm saying is true, because I don't like spitting garbage to people. But I realize when you make predictions, when you're right, you and God kind of have to hold that to your heart and say, all right, good, we got that one right. When you're wrong, everybody wants to talk to you about it. So, the only argument that I've ever made here on the show is based in factual evidence that the Big Ten and Notre Dame get an unfair advantage. That's story A. Story B is if they get into the college football playoff and they win and they back up their right to be there, then I'm going to give them nothing but credit and flowers. So I don't know what anybody can argue with that. I'm stating they have an unfair advantage that's rooted in facts. And if you're dumb enough to not look at the facts, well, I can't help that. And then on the other side of it, I said if they win, then they win. If they win, then they win. The Toronto Raptors won the 2019 NBA championship. I was told they were never going to win. I was made fun of. Why do you like a team that's not even in America playing in the National Basketball Association? What a stupid thing to do to like the Toronto Raptors. You're going to die and never see them win a championship. They might never make the playoffs, Dan. Then they win a championship. Let's talk about flowers, Greg. I didn't get them from you. I didn't get them from anybody else. So, I shouldn't say I didn't get them from anybody else. My friends were there for me. My friend, like Katie, was there watching the game with me and whatnot. But, I was told that I was never going to see them win a championship. Jerry said, Jesus is not a Notre Dame fan, but his mother is. Nice. The Hail Mary. So, Jerry said, I would really like to see Notre Dame join a conference. And Greg, listen, I love that you watch and listen to the show. I can't keep telling you the same thing, hoping that you're going to hear it differently. So, me saying they have an unfair advantage versus me respecting when they win games. What have I said all season? Play somebody. Now they're playing somebody and they're winning. But how would I have known that? How would you have known that? Since they don't play anybody most of the time going into the season. Notre Dame had some tough games. Ohio State had Oregon. But, besides that, Penn State didn't have a tough season. So that's what I'm saying. How do we know going in how good these teams are when they're not challenging themselves? Michigan challenged themselves. Michigan played Texas. For the first time in a very long time, Michigan had an on-conference schedule that I actually thought, oh, wow. They're not playing cupcakes walking into this thing. Syracuse is going to have to run a gamut next year. So if Syracuse goes and beats Clemson, goes and beats SMU, goes and beats Notre Dame, will they give Syracuse their flowers, or will they say, oh, SMU, Notre Dame, they're not as good this year? You know what I mean? It's like when people win, sometimes they get flowers and sometimes they're, oh, that team was sick and they didn't care. Remember UCF? Because it's all about narratives. Remember UCF? Remember when they won? Remember when UCF beats, trying to think back here, they played LSU, but before they played Auburn. When they beat Auburn, what did people say? There was like broadcasters that said this. They're like, oh, well, they beat Auburn because the guys didn't want to be there and they didn't want to play and they were like pissed off and like that's why they won. They didn't win because they're good. They won because the other team quit. And that's not true. Greg said the disrespect is unfair. It's not disrespect, Greg. Factual evidence that they have an unfair... Why is that disrespect if I say someone has an unfair advantage? How is that disrespectful? Disrespectful is saying they suck. They're terrible. That's disrespect. Disrespect is saying that they're an awful conference. When have I said that? Never. When have I ever said the Big Ten is a bad conference? All I said is they have an unfair advantage. That doesn't imply that they're bad. It doesn't imply that they're good. It doesn't imply disrespect. It's not disrespect. Saying that they have an unfair advantage? Okay. Well, Jim Boeheim said it too. So I guess Jim and I will have to just take the abuse. Greg said the buys is a killer. All teams with buys were 0-4. Yeah, and that's the thing too. The conversation about that. So the annoying moment of the week is basically saying the same thing over and over again, expecting someone to hear you that doesn't want to. And I guess I would say that because I never thought it would be difficult to like state normal sentences and have people not hear you or imply things out of your sentences. But we live in a world where people imply things, or people hear what they want to hear. Now, if Ohio State, Penn State, and Notre Dame lost, Greg would still be mad at me, probably, for saying that they had an unfair advantage. But an unfair advantage is not implying that they're bad. But again, I can't keep saying this on my show because it annoys me the fact that people can't hear the very basic things that I'm trying to get through. So I respect the Big Ten. I respect their student athletes. I enjoy seeing them play. I just think in the polls they have an unfair advantage, which is not the fault of the student athletes. It's not. It's not the fault of them at all. They don't control the polls. All I'm saying is that the polls lean on the Big Ten more than they don't. And I think any conference would tell you that. I've talked to people in other conferences. I've spoken with coaches that can see it. So if we can see it in the business and you don't want to hear it, I mean, that's not my problem. So, but the other question that comes in that's the annoying moment is if you're a top 4 team in the college football playoff, and once again, this is the first year of the expansion. And Greg, we can agree to disagree, I guess. Because I send you love, brother. I got stuff in this studio that you gave me as gifts, and I appreciate you. I wish you could hear what I was saying because I'm trying to make it as basic as possible. But if you can't, I still appreciate you, still appreciate your family, and still send you all love. So you still got to win meaningful games. You still have to win meaningful games. And we can agree on that. So, and I hope you can understand my point at some point if you take a step back and kind of see the big picture. Because I was going to come on the show today and say, dang it, Ohio State, they're killing it. Notre Dame, and this is what I wanted to say on the show today, so maybe if people just gave me a second to say it. I said it yesterday on social media, and I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to expand on it a little bit here. This is what I wrote. I want to take my exact words that I wrote yesterday. And I said, I'm not taking anything away from Notre Dame. Yes, Georgia Bulldogs starting quarterback Carson Beck didn't play due to injury. But the Fighting Irish offense doesn't play Carson Beck. They play the defense, and they demoralize them. The Fighting Irish has earned their flowers for sure. So, Greg, I already gave them their flowers yesterday. All you had to do was just read it on social media publicly. See, I don't shy away from that stuff. If I'm wrong about a prediction, I'm not going to sit here and go, I hope nobody sees it. Because when I'm right about it, I know the majority of people keep their mouth shut. So I'm not here in 2025 to make the same mistakes in 2024, which are thinking that you get credit for your own work, thinking that people don't steal or plagiarize from you, and thinking that people will treat you the way that they want to be treated. I'm not going into 2025 thinking that. So I started my statement with a reality, Greg. I took away that people would blame Carson Beck. And I asked them not to. Notre Dame did what they needed to do. And I want to say something about the Dodd Trophy winner. Now, I was at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl when he won the Dodd Trophy, when they announced that he won, for Coach of the Year. There's different Coach of the Year trophies. This one's named after Bobby Dodd, and it is for coaches whose programs exemplify scholarship, leadership, and integrity. And I will say something about Marcus Freeman. When he came in last year, I didn't really know. I was like, is this the right move for Notre Dame? You know, kind of. I mean, Brian Kelly, for all goodness sakes, that was a wobbly thing, right? There was times where you felt like Notre Dame was going to fire him. And I looked at Marcus Freeman, and I thought, is this the right situation? But then I also thought to myself, I don't know enough about Marcus Freeman to even make that call. So I take a step back and I watched Marcus Freeman coach yesterday. And anybody who's seen Marcus Freeman, I don't care if you haven't seen any other game, if you saw him coach yesterday, that man commanded the game. That man dictated the game. Marcus Freeman called out Kirby Smart in the plays that he called, or in the plays that he approved, in the things that were done. I want to shout out his offensive coordinator, his defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, and his whole coaching staff as well, because it's a coaching staff effort, and I'm sure he would tell you that. I'm confident he would tell you that. But what I'm saying is he dictated this game. Is it 4th and 1, 4th and, in those 4th down situations, he stayed on the field. And if you watched him, not only did he stay on the field, but he's clapping on the sideline, telling his team, like, you got this. There's something about Marcus Freeman's coaching that makes me believe that these guys that they know that he's got their back, that he believes in them. Hey, it's 4th and whatever, but we don't even know that. We're treating it like it's 1st and 10 because we look over at Coach and Coach is clapping it up going, you got it, baby. Marcus Freeman dictated the entire game yesterday. He called Kirby Smart's bluff. He had his cards in front of his face, and he was like, show me what you got. Marcus Freeman played a chess game. Marcus Freeman played a card game. Marcus Freeman was out here playing Texas Hold'em. He was out here playing chess, and he was successful at all of it. He had faith in his team, and like he said, I can have faith in, I'm not paraphrasing, I can have faith in them, I can believe in them, I can go and think that they're going to do this, but then they have to go out and believe in themselves, and then they have to go do it. He said something to that effect after the game. Notre Dame should have nothing taken away from them because the conversation and the narrative, again, narrative, and I've been in this business long enough to think that I know what narratives are going to come out, that people are going to say, well, Carson Beck wasn't there, so that's why. That's not why. Notre Dame played a better game. Their special teams ran in a touchdown. Their defense made plays. And they're going to work to make those plays whoever the quarterback is. Their offense dictated that game. I've watched a lot of football in my life. And I can tell you that there is no doubt in my mind that that offense completely demoralized the defense of Georgia. They didn't give them a second to breathe. And that's how they won this game. They dictated, they were positive, they were strong, they were consistent, and they were resolute. Notre Dame was better than Georgia yesterday. They were. A team that typically plays a schedule that is not, in recent history, a schedule that I think is deserving of going, okay, you don't have a conference championship and you don't play in a conference, but sure, you can get into the college football playoff. This year, this team has proven, like I said, when they beat Indiana, okay, I picked Notre Dame to beat Indiana. But when they played Georgia, now, yes, people are always going to wonder, what would have the game been like if Carson Beck was there? That's what people do, okay? I told you, the quarterback is the most important position on the field when it comes to, if you have everything else and you don't have that, teams don't win. So typically. So in the case of Carson Beck, people are always going to wonder, what would that have been like if he was there? What would it have been like? We're never going to know. And I don't want to take anything against out. I don't want to take anything away from Gunnar Stockton. This is his first start collegiately, so I would cut him some slack. But Notre Dame won this game, and I don't want anybody to walk away from that game thinking Notre Dame won it because Carson Beck was out. Notre Dame won it because they didn't have the... No. Notre Dame won the game. They did. And I don't have a vendetta against any conference, any team, ever. I don't make personal attacks on the show. I'm not a person who wants to make personal attacks on or off the air. I am not a preemptive striker. I am someone who sees a fact, I take an opinion, and until those facts change, that's my opinion. I was told you only have opinions if you can base them in facts. And the factual evidence showed Notre Dame has an unfair advantage in the polls, and they've had it for many, many years. But this time around, this year specifically, because if we want to talk about an unfair advantage when it didn't work out, then I would love to address the fact what Notre Dame did in the past and how they lost both of those college football playoff games that they shouldn't have been in. But this one, this season, they're proving that they should be there. They are. They beat Georgia. Do you know how many people thought Georgia was going to win the whole thing with or without Carson back? People that I talked to going into this game saying, Georgia. Well, now it's Notre Dame and Penn State, which to me feels like a Big Ten game. Because if Notre Dame joined any conference, I think they would join the Big Ten. In my opinion, they would join the Big Ten. Greg, you're not listening to a different show. You just haven't been listening. Ohio State, and I've said this consistently, they have fantastic players. They have fantastic players. They go to the NFL and they do a fantastic job. Now, quarterback-wise, before C.J. Stroud, there was a little, time. Guys switched positions. Braxton Miller became a wide receiver and so on and so forth. But Ohio State has had talented guys. Marvin Harrison Jr. very recently here. It's just that Ohio State in these big games hadn't come through in recent history. They haven't. Look at the facts. But Ohio State right now is going to give Texas all that Texas can handle. Now, it helps Texas that they're going home. They're not going to Austin, but they're going to their state. And anybody down in Texas can tell you no matter how big that state is, those Texas fans are going to show up at the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State fans, I'm imagining, are going to show up in droves as well. AT&T Stadium is massive. And I do want to give credit here, and we got to get into other pieces of the show, but I do want to give credit here to the Cotton Bowl and the Peach Bowl because I've been to both of them before. And obviously I just went to the Peach Bowl a couple days ago. And the team around the Peach Bowl and the Cotton Bowl put on an absolutely tremendous job. Their arenas are packed, and it's been incredible. It's been absolutely incredible to experience the community, the game, the stadium, everything they do for the media. I cannot thank the Peach Bowl and the Cotton Bowl enough, and that's to take nothing away from the other New Year's Six Bowls. I'm speaking from the experience. Now, I believe I went to the Capital One Orange Bowl many years ago. I think that I went to that because that was the first time I ever saw Nick Saban. He walked behind me. So I can speak a little bit to the Orange Bowl, but I know that that's, changed over time. The Fiesta Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, I'd love the opportunity to go to those. So hopefully in the future, I will have that opportunity as well. But just to speak to the Peach Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, the job that you all do, Gary Stokin, Matt Garvey, and his team, when it comes to the Peach Bowl, Scotty Rogers and the crew for the Cotton Bowl, I cannot say enough and have enough gratitude for you guys letting me in. To me, this has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. And the people in the background don't get enough credit. So that's why here on this show, I try to bring everyone who should have credit to the foreground because I know what it's like to not get credit for what you do. And not on my watch is that going to happen, that people don't get credit for the work that they do. And I had a fantastic time at the Peach Bowl. I didn't want to come home. Not because I don't want to see my family, not because, I don't want to be back at the studios. I didn't want to come home because I had such a great time. I just wanted to stay in that stadium and experience that stadium. I got to go live from the stadium. It was awesome. It was an awesome experience. I got to be on the field multiple times, pregame and postgame. So, my annoying moment of the week is that sometimes people listen but they don't hear. And when you sneeze and you cough in public, please just cover something. Just cover it up. There was a lady that was walking her baby, coughing, and I'm like, is she covering her face or is she just spitting on the baby? You know what I mean? So, like, just let's be a little safe out here, folks. Let's just think about others. Okay, let's think about others. And we'll take a step aside. We'll come back. We'll do lead and top dog of the week right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Stay with us. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Kampground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Kampground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Kampground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9Kampground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and Kampground spelled with a K.com. K9Kampground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
And welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We come to you from inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City. Honda City by going to wakeupcalldt.com, and you can click on their logo on our homepage. You can also go to our most recent post on social media and get all your information that you need, and hours of operation, the sales phone number, as well as the service phone number. And you can always go to greatlakeshondacity.com to get more information there as well. It's time to jump into lead here on Wake Up Call. Learn, evolve, ad-lib, and deliver. That is the acronym here on Wake Up Call, proudly presented by the wonderful team led by Mr. Jimmer Sikowski, their owner, operator, and fearless leader, who joins us all throughout the year with his wonderful spirit and his service to the community. Here with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Chick-fil-A Cicero means the world to me. And today we're here to talk about a topic that I struggle with. God's timing. God's timing. Do you trust it? See, many of us want what we want when we want it, right? We act like little kids. I want it, and I want it now. Give it to me now. Provide it for me now. I asked God for something. Why isn't it here yet? I want God to be like Amazon. I want God to be better than Amazon. When I ask for it, I want it at my door immediately. That's how we treat God. We treat God like he owes us something all the time. We treat God like He's an endless well. Give me what I want when I want it. And if I ask for it today, I better have it in an hour. How dare us talk like that to God? I want it when I want it. Give it to me now. His timing, and I'm not saying that that's how I talk to God. I'm saying that that's how I act sometimes. It's how I act. You know, you've heard me talk about it here on the show. I am a man who isn't afraid to show love, isn't afraid to show his heart, isn't afraid to put himself out there. So to me, that's something I've always wanted. I want to have love. I want to have a wife who treats me great, who's consistently good and not occasionally great. You know, just good, just a good woman. Someone who supports me, someone who's my teammate. I want to have that. I want to have that love and support. And I want to give that back every day of my life. And I'd like to have kids and have those kids grow up and be better than me. Those kids grow up and have a wonderful life. That has always been the most important thing to me under God, is to have love in my life where I can have a family. But see, things don't always happen on your time. Things don't always happen when you want them to happen or how you want them to happen. And when it doesn't happen, or it hasn't happened yet, it's funny, that's what my dad said to me. I said, Dad, should I be upset that it hasn't happened? And my dad always says, it's not that it hasn't happened, Daniel, it just hasn't happened yet. And I think that that's something to really ponder and think about, is that it hasn't happened yet. Not that it hasn't happened, but that it hasn't happened yet. Because there's something you may be looking for in your life that hasn't happened yet. And you might be thinking, well, it's never going to happen because it hasn't happened. Instead of it hasn't happened, why don't we start saying it hasn't happened yet? Well, Dan, I don't know when it's going to happen. No, none of us know when it's going to happen because it's not our time. It's His. It's God's timing. I can't pretend to know why God does what He does sometimes when He does it. I'm not God. I can't play God. I think a lot of people try to. And I think there's times in my life where I've tried to. I've tried to go out there and do what I need to do to make it happen. But I have a love for God that doesn't allow me to sit here and be mad at Him. I'm not mad at God that certain things haven't happened. I'm upset with myself that in order of trying to play God and make things happen, I put myself around people that I never should have. I put myself in situations I should have never been in. If anything, God should be upset saying, Daniel, it hasn't been time, but you tried to make it time and you went through all this undue stress and angst. But it's also helped me to grow and it's helped me to learn. Lisa said, I'm not super religious, but I had been really asking for kids for years, and finally, after trying for so long, I got my twins, and I couldn't be happier. Well, Lisa, with or without you being religious, with or without you believing in God, I'll tell you this, He answered your prayer. I'll tell you that. He answered your prayer, Lisa, and I appreciate you sharing that, and your twins are beautiful. Thank you for bringing them to my 21-year celebration of broadcasting. I'm happy that you came, and I'm happy that you brought them. And I send them my love and my support, and I hope nothing but good things for them in their lives, as well as you and yours, and your entire family and all of your loved ones. I pray and I hope the best for you, Lisa, now and always. Same for Greg, same for Jerry, same for everybody that's watching and listening. I pray and I hope for everybody. God doesn't discriminate, so how can I, and how can you? So, to me, God's timing is perfect. Now, I still don't know when I'm going to find that right woman for me. The woman that's going to knock me off my feet in a good way. I still don't know the woman that I can finally trust You know, I've been beaten and bruised. What does Rick Ross say? He says in one of his songs, she says love is for free, just expensive to shop. And I go to that because love is free. True love is free. But it is expensive to shop. And not just monetarily, not just you buy gifts for people that you think you're in love with. You buy a ring for someone, you get a house with someone, you end up getting divorced. I'm not talking about just that. I'm saying she says love is for free, just expensive to shop. It is expensive to shop because you use your energy. You use your time. You use your feelings. And it is expensive because when you love the wrong people for you, when you love the people that aren't, not that those people shouldn't be loved, but when you love and you give energy and time to someone who doesn't appreciate you, doesn't love you, doesn't treat you well, that is expensive. It can cost you your health. It can cost you your wellness. It can cost you your time. It can cost you your money. It can cost you a lot of things. Your mind. So love is free, but it is extremely expensive to shop. And that's why some of my friends don't shop anymore. Because love was so expensive. And they don't want to go through it again. I have friends that were like, hey, you know what? This trying to fall in love and trying to find the right person, it's exhausting. It's tough. It's painful. I'm not doing it anymore. And I've had friends that are like, it's exhausting, it's long and tough, and it's painful, but I'm going to keep going. You know, I've had friends on both sides of the coin. Lisa said God answered her prayers and blessed her with 2 perfect babies. Lisa, I am so happy that you shared that today. And like I said, I love you all. You've been good to me and supportive of me. And those 2 beautiful babies that you have were the youngest people that were at my party. So shout out to them for being there and for showing some love and support and just looking sweet and cute. God bless you all. Always. God's timing is something we're never going to know. I didn't know I was going to start my business at 26. I didn't know I was going to start my own business. I thought I was going to go do this and go do that. It's not that I didn't think I could do it. I just didn't really know that that was going to be the plan. God's timing. My grandfather's passed away when I was 6. I thought they were going to see me go to college. I thought they were going to see me get married. God's timing. I didn't know when I was going to be ready to get a dog after Shady passed away. It was just a feeling. When you want something so bad, sometimes you will put the blinders on and you'll bring yourself through hell. And God will look at you going, what are you doing? And it's like, well, God, I want it. And he's like, I know you do, child, but be patient. I'm coming. Just be patient. You know when you tell your dog to sit and stay on the porch so you can go get the mail? Your dog wants to be with you. They want to see you. But you don't want them to get hit by a car. So you say, be patient. Be patient. Stay. Stay. Be still. Be patient. I'm coming right back. Be patient. Because you're trying to protect them. And some dogs will sit and they'll wait for you. As much as they want to see you, as much as they're anticipating you, they'll sit and they'll wait. Other dogs will run out into the street. So what I like to think is when God says, wait, instead of being like, why is he being so mean to me? Why does he hate me? Maybe God is treating us like we would treat the dog on the porch. I know you want to come out here. I know you want to be here. I know you want to be right here. But just wait. I'm trying to protect you. I look at this passage pretty much every day, and it's in my home. Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. Something that Jerry shared with me, and Jerry didn't even know I had it in my house. Be still and know that I am God. Let's practice that together. And let's trust his timing. I will. Will you join me? You have my promise. Handshake. I will trust God. Can you do that with me? Please. This has been Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver, proudly presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, New York, on God's timing. It's time to jump into the top dog of the week as we are here inside of the wonderful digs that we have here, the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City, located for you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool. And my word is my bond. I get all my vehicles of many, many, many years at Great Lakes Honda City. I look forward to you heading out there today. Let them know that you heard about them on Wake Up Call. Say, DT sent me over here to Great Lakes Honda City for new and used vehicles available to you Monday through Saturday. It's time for the top dog of the week. Top dog of the week, proudly presented by Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Kampground Dog Boarding. The only place that I would tell you to trust with your furry-loving friends. Head out to the wonderful Canine Camp Dog Daycare on 228 Old Bridge Street, across the street from BJ's, right off of Bridge Street, which is right off of Erie Boulevard and the highway. It's very centrally located and easy to get to. You can see the daycare from the street when you're driving down Bridge Street. Head off to 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse to Canine Camp Dog Daycare. You can find out more information by calling 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110. And you can also go to the campground for longer care. That's the dog boarding side of things. It's down the road from the daycare. Canine Campground Dog Boarding is available to you on 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, and you can find them by going to KAMP ground.com. That's KAMP ground.com. And you can also call them at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013 for Canine Campground Dog Boarding for longer term care for your dog. And I do want to let y'all know you can get more information on the daycare by going to K-9KAMP.com. With that being said, it's time for our top dog of the week. Mike Houston is in the queue here. He'll be with us momentarily. Always appreciate Mr. Houston. All I know is that wherever he ends up coaching in the future, it'd be nice if he brought me, right? He could bring me on for something. I think I know a few X's and O's. I think I'm methodical about a lot of different things. I definitely think I can recruit, so we'll see what happens here. But the top dog of the week, proudly presented by Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Campground Dog Boarding. Here for you today, I am honoring Marcus Freeman. I had made mention of Mr. Freeman earlier on here in the show, and I continue the conversation on a coach that, in my opinion, after winning the Dodd Trophy, I thought to myself, man, there's other people I might have given that Dodd Trophy to. There's other guys I thought of this year that may have earned that Dodd Trophy. Rhett Lashley of SMU, Fran Brown of Syracuse, because you're not just looking at wins, you're looking at exemplifying leadership, scholarship, and integrity with the Dodd Trophy. So there's other people that I was considering and looking to in this award, but Marcus Freeman wins it, and I said, okay, well, you know what? I haven't really watched Marcus Freeman coach. I got to watch him coach throughout a game, and I watched that game yesterday in the college football playoff, and again, he dictated the game. He ran the pace of the game. He didn't shy away from anything. I think Kirby Smart would have been more shocked if he didn't go for it, speaking of Freeman, on 4th and 2, 4th and 3, 4th and 1. You don't see a lot of coaches that have that type of fire inside of, like that faith inside of them, to be like, yeah, we're going for it like it's second down. We're going for it like it's first down. Marcus Freeman showed that he believed in his team, He was consistent throughout the game, and he looked like just a different coach in the way he handled himself. The positivity that he had, the belief that he had, and the courage that he had. He could have been terrified, shaking in his boots. He could have been nervous as all get out in that game. This is college football playoff. It's a big thing on the line here. But he didn't show it. And they say the courage is not the absence of fear. It's saddling up anyways, despite the fear. And Marcus Freeman is my top dog of the week because what he did, what his staff did to that Georgia defense has nothing to do with Carson Beck. And the way that they played, the belief that they had in themselves and each other, and the fact that God is first, that means a lot to me. So Marcus Freeman, I saw something in a coach that really stuck out to me. I saw belief. I saw somebody who truly doesn't just look the part, but is the part. And if I was going up against him yesterday and I was the coach, I would think, man, this guy is not going to give me an inch. This guy is not going to give me a breath. And that's why I'm calling him the top dog of the week. Because he came out, he dictated, he supported, and he did not flinch. Even if he was shaking in his boots, that man didn't blink. He's my top dog of the week because leadership, man, integrity, the things that he brought on that field, he did something yesterday that a lot of people probably thought that he couldn't do and that the team couldn't do. But they did it. And I give the utmost respect to Marcus Freeman and his staff. That's why I'm naming him the top dog of the week. Scholarship is learning of a high level. Leadership, obviously, having the ability to bring people together, to have a community that will listen to you and believe in what you have to say. Integrity, we look at those morals and those values. Well, Coach Freeman, there's a reason why he is the Dodd Trophy winner, and there's also a reason why they won that game. There's a bunch of reasons. He said the players got to go out and do it, but he believed in them and he didn't shy away from it, and I respect him for it, and that's why he's the top dog of the week. With that being said, it's time to go picture-in-picture here inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with a friend of mine that I've known for many years, and as we bring him in here, I am so very grateful to have Mike Houston here with me on the broadcast. Mike Houston, a longtime collegiate coach and someone who most recently was with the East Carolina Pirates. That's how him and I got to meet each other. And having Mike here, he's someone who votes inside of the coaches poll. He's someone who understands the FBS very well, and he has spent a very close eye on this college football season and definitely this college football playoff. Somebody I respect on and off the air. Mr. Houston, how are we doing today?
Doing good. How was Christmas?
Christmas was very good. I appreciate you asking. To me, I had a perfect time. Mom and Dad, I got to spend time with them. Went to Dad's on Christmas Eve, went to Mom's on Christmas Day, and I walked away from it saying to both of them, like, to me, it was a near perfect Christmas. I wouldn't change a thing about it. The food was great. The company was better. And yeah, I forget what I got as gifts because just having my parents alive is the gift for me.
No doubt. Family, it's always the highlight of the holidays is family time together.
Absolutely. How was your Christmas?
Sharing time with them that you don't get a lot of times throughout the year. So that was definitely the highlight for us too. We've got a little bit of the chaos of a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. So you factor in all the stuff that they're into. So it kept us busy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Was there any gift in the Houston household this year that the kids were like, Dad, I have to get this. I'm gonna be good because I gotta have this under the tree. Was there a gift that they were looking for?
Oh, they had quite a few, but they're both so gung ho with athletics and sports right now that getting a basketball or a pair of gloves for next football season or something like that. Those are the kind of things that kind of dominate our house.
So for you, was it good when you reflect on celebrating Jesus's birthday? Was this Christmas of 2024? Yeah. Was that a memorable one?
It was. Our church here locally has expanded recently, and they added a second campus because of the growth, and it's a little bit smaller venue and a little more intimate. And so the candlelight service on Christmas Eve there was one that kind of takes you back. It was a little kind of old school, and certainly touching, and a great way to celebrate the reason for the Christmas holidays, and that's the birth of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the most important part of the holiday. People forget that. I was like, if you want to say happy holidays on December 25th on Jesus's birthday, then whoever does that on their birthday, I will wish them a happy holidays. That's my agreement.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
So Mike Houston here with us, longtime collegiate coach, speaking on the college football playoff, NIL, and the transfer portal. So let's take a look at the elephant in the room, Mike. We see that in this new expanded college football playoff format, the 4 highest ranked conference champions are not only guaranteed a spot, but they get a bye. And each of those teams, Oregon out of the Big Ten, Georgia out of the SEC as the 1 and the 2 respectively, the 3-seeded Boise State out of the Mountain West, and the 4-seeded Arizona State out of the Big 12, they all got to sit and watch the first round, and they will all be sitting and watching the rest of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Not a single team that had a bye won. So I know it's only this year, but is this just they ran into a better team, or are you concerned about the bye being something that could be a detriment to a program?
Well, I think first off, I don't think anybody can deny that the 12-team playoff has been a hit. I mean, it's been, I think everything that we had hoped for from a standpoint of, just great play, teams stepping up at the right time of the year, and teams coming together, and you're seeing who's peaking at the right time. I think the one thing that stands out to me from not only this weekend, but the first round is I would anticipate that you're going to see a change in the way everyone's seated, and maybe you don't get a bye because you're a conference champion. Maybe that goes back to just you're seated based to how you're playing at that time of the year, which would change the shuffling. The one that stands out to me is, you have undefeated number 1 ranked Oregon, which, I don't care how you do it, they're still going to be the number 1 seed. And they draw arguably the best team in the playoff, Ohio State. That's their game, their first game in the playoff.
Yeah.
And so I think that game right there stands out as, hey, we need to look at how teams are seeded, because there's no way that Oregon should draw Ohio State. Now, I know Ohio State lost to Michigan in the last game of the regular season, but this is the most talented team in college football. And certainly they looked like it in both of their 2 playoff games. So I think that's where you're going to see. I think, this is me personally speaking, I think you're going to see the playoff continue to expand. I think you may see it go to 16 teams here in the next year or 2. And then there are no byes. Everybody plays in the first round, and the 8 that win advance on. So I think the playoff's good. I think the games the last few days have been just outstanding. And I think that you're just going to see some tweaks to make it a little bit better moving forward.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that you think it's going to expand to 16. Why do you think that? Is it just to get rid of the byes? What's your belief that we could see 16 sooner than later?
Well, I think that you had, the whole deal with SMU, Alabama, South Carolina, those last few teams right there, maybe maybe another really hot, group of 5 team. I think that you just had and you're always going to have those fringe teams. If you go to 16, it's going to be teams 17 and 18.
Yeah.
But I think that, going to 16, it's not going to make the playoff any longer. It will eliminate the bye. But you're going to get those top next at-large teams are going to get in, and I think there's no reason not to do it.
Yeah, and I mean I'm okay with the expansion because I mean like you said, there's always going to be fringe. No matter how much you expand it, there's always going to be the conversation
Right.
of who didn't get in. It's the same thing with the NCAA tournament for basketball. When you look at where we're at right now with the 12, though, you said that maybe we start looking at where these teams are seated differently
Right.
because Oregon, think about this. If Oregon had won, Oregon would play Ohio State. Oregon, if they won that game, would have to play the winner of Georgia and Notre Dame. They would have to play the winner of Texas and Arizona State. And so let's say, for argument's sake, Oregon plays Ohio State, then they play Texas, and then they play Georgia or Penn State. I mean, that is a gamut for that. Now,
Right.
Texas, on their side of it, I would argue going into the bracket that Texas had an easier road as the 5 seed, not having a bye. Texas plays Clemson, who had 3 losses this season. Then Texas goes and plays Arizona State. And so to me, I think before we saw the playoff being played, the easier road was to Texas, and Texas is 4 spots below Oregon. So when you break down that bracket and really take a look at it, I think there's teams that have an easier path to get to where they need to get to. And I think that we are going to see a change in that respect, because that's the rumblings I've been hearing, Mike, is like,
Right.
can we really give the conference champions the top 4 seeds, or do we give the top 4 seeds to who we consider to be the top 4 best teams at that time?
Right. And because there's no way that you can justify Boise State and Arizona State getting the bye based on, the strength of their team.
Right.
Yes, Arizona State, I mean, what an impressive fourth quarter versus Texas. But you can't say that they deserve to have the bye over some of the other teams in the playoff.
Yeah.
And just, Boise State had an outstanding year, but, it was obvious that, they are not the caliber of team that Penn State was when they got on the field together. So I just think a shake up in the seeding is the first tweak that I would look at. But again, I think that what would be the negative of going to 16 versus 12? I mean, you're going to eliminate the byes, okay? You seed everybody and you play a tournament, just like basketball.
Yeah. And like you said, in this world of eliminating the byes, you got 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15. I mean, essentially, you're playing one of the NCAA tournament men's basketball brackets. So
Right.
if we look at that this year, I just want to go, for argument's sake, going off of your 16 conversation here. And so if we had 1 through 16 based on, and we did include conference champions here, but let's just go for the last rankings of the college football playoff here on Wake Up Call inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. We're here with Mike Houston, longtime collegiate football coach in the FBS, having the conversation here about the college football playoff and if it were to expand to 16. So if we had the expansion to 16, I want to make sure that we have our conference champions accounted for. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is what it would look like. This year, we would have 1-seeded Oregon would go up against 16-seeded Clemson. We would have Georgia as the 2 go up against South Carolina. We would have Texas go up against Ole Miss. We would have Penn State versus Miami. We'd have Notre Dame as the 5. If this were to happen this way, we would see Notre Dame go up against Arizona State. That would be an interesting game. Notre Dame going up against what I just saw with Scadaboo. And then we would have Ohio State as the 6. Ohio State would field Alabama in the first round of this thing. We would have Tennessee against SMU, which I think would be a good game.
Right.
And then we
Similar
would have,
styles.
Yeah. And then we would have Indiana versus Boise State, which is a game that I could see Boise State winning. So if we did that, if we had 16 this season, Oregon, Clemson, Georgia, South Carolina, Texas, Ole Miss, Penn State, Miami, Notre Dame, Arizona State, we would have Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, SMU, and Indiana, Boise State. Thoughts?
Oh, I think it'd be exciting. I think that think about that matchup of Georgia and South Carolina in the first round. I mean, what a great matchup, in Athens. I think the one thing I do think you saw is those on campus playoff games in the first round. The energy and the atmosphere in those stadiums is, everything that college football that we love about it, and probably to another level as far as the intensity. And so I think it would be an exciting tournament,
Yeah.
And I think that it would provide you quality matchups. I think that even with the 12-team playoff this year, the one thing that we're guaranteed is you're going to get a true national champion.
Yeah.
You're going to get, there's no doubt whoever makes it through this, this tournament, which is it is going to be a gauntlet of a tournament.
Yeah.
Whoever makes it through and comes out on top, you can't question that they are the true national champion. And so I think, with the 16-team format, you're going to have exciting matchups each week. It's going to create a December and a January, because this is no longer a one semester sport. For so many years, we've been a one semester sport in college football. It's turning into more of a 2-semester sport where, the national championship is going to be played, sometime late January. So it's turning into more of a, much like basketball, a 2-semester sport, but it's going to create a December and a January that is just electric. It is very much like the NFL during playoff time. And so I think that, for all of the things that are wrong with college football right now, and, all of us have vented about the changes that are needed, I think this playoff is showing us all the things that are fantastic about our sport. And it's bringing out some positivity and creating a lot of excitement for these teams and for everyone.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. We just got a question that came in is, do we think that if there weren't the buys that life would have been different for these teams? And so, I mean, I look back on this, Mike, and I say to myself, because the question was, do you think the games would have gone differently if the top 4 didn't have a bye? I mean, there's the reality of momentum, right? And you win a game,
doubt.
and it as a coach, well, I mean, let's speak to that from your perspective, from your seat, because you've gone through buys, right? You're coaching, and you get a bye when the team is on a losing streak, or you get a bye when the team is on a winning streak. When you have a week off and other people are playing, when the rest of your conference is playing, when the majority of your conference is playing, when the team that you're about to go up against is playing, does having a week off hurt you or help you? Because that's a conversation that comes up a lot.
It depends on the year and depends on the team. I mean, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. If you're really hot and you've really hit your groove, then no, you don't want the bye, because you want to just keep playing. If you're really banged up and you've got a couple of key guys out and you're coming off a tough stretch, then you may need the bye just to recover and get a couple of guys back and get healed up. So I think it's different for every team and every year, and even what time during the year. And so I think it's who knows if these games would have gone different. But for a team to have a longer layoff and another team to be playing, I think, like you said, those teams that were playing, they won, so they had positive momentum coming into this game.
Yeah.
And it created a situation which I don't think any of us anticipated, where all 4 top seeds lost. Now, they're at neutral sites. They did not have home field advantage. They were neutral site games, and the ironic thing, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all 4 of the top seeds were underdogs in these games this past week. And so I think that goes back to my argument about seeding. If you had proper seeding coming into, these games this weekend, I don't think that you would have had those teams would not have necessarily been the top 4 seeds versus the 4 teams they played. You wouldn't have gotten Oregon, Ohio State. You've got Oregon and somebody else, where they're not an underdog in the game, even though they're the number 1 team in the nation.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that we look at these seeds and this is why the conversation comes up of, is it right to seed the top 4 as conference champions? Because of the fact if you look at some of these matchups and you say, okay, Texas playing Arizona State. Arizona State had a bye, but most people are picking Texas. And
right.
You look at Georgia, and Georgia's the 2, but Georgia doesn't have Carson Beck. So we're saying,
right.
Okay, well, that's a 2, but Georgia's, to me, they're the 2 seed with Carson Beck. They're not the 2 seed without him. Here's a question that I pose to you, Mike, because I've said this many times, and I said this well before it happened. I said what happened to Florida State last year, and I said this when it happened. I said what's happening to Florida State of not being allowed in the college football playoff when they won their conference championship without their quarterback. They won every game with Jordan Travis before that. So Jordan Travis and the team, Florida State, goes undefeated. They play in a conference championship game, and they win that game. Ugly, but they win it. And so I look at this and I say to myself, it's not that the committee didn't see them play without Jordan Travis, because they did, and they saw them win the ACC championship. So that's one argument, is that they won without him. The other argument is they won undefeated. The other argument is they're in the ACC, which is part of the autonomy group, which is a quote-unquote power conference. And then the committee's like, yeah, well, they don't have their starting quarterback. We're not putting them in the college football playoff. And I said back then, a year ago, they would never do that to Alabama. They would never do that to Georgia. Well, not only did they not do it to Georgia, they made Georgia a 2 seed in this thing. They could have made Georgia anywhere from 1 to 12. They put Georgia as the 2 seed. So my question to you, Mr. Houston, is does Mike Norvell and Florida State have even more of a gripe with the college football playoff to be held out last year due to the injury of Jordan Travis, and to see Carson Beck go down before the committee chooses, before the committee puts their bracket together? So they knew this ahead of time. Carson Beck goes out on a Georgia team that's not undefeated, and they're not allowed, and they get a 2 seed in this. Florida State loses Jordan Travis, goes undefeated, and is an afterthought last year. Does Florida State and Mike Norvell have even more of a gripe, in your opinion?
Well, I think that there's both situations have gripes. I mean, certainly I think the reason that you like the expansion to 12 teams from the playoff is so that a Florida State undefeated ACC champion Florida State, with or without Jordan Travis, they still are in the playoff. That's why you like the expansion. And back to my seeding argument, that's the reason I think you seed the teams, is because a number 2 Georgia without Carson Beck is probably not the number 2 seed if we're not giving the automatic buys and top 4 seeds to the 4 highest ranked conference champions. I think that both situations are a reason that this playoff needs to continue to be tweaked and refined moving forward. But both teams deserve to be in the playoff because of their regular seasons, and that's and that's the other argument is Notre Dame, very impressive last night. I mean, you talked about Marcus Freeman a while ago, and certainly he has done a phenomenal job there in taking over for Brian Kelly. And we got to play against Marcus when he was the DC at Cincinnati years ago, and a very bright, energetic young coach. Yeah. But the thing he also has is he has 2 coordinators, Al Golden on defense, Denbrock on offense, that are veteran, experienced guys. And what I saw last night was a very complete football team that really, I'm not going to say they dominated Georgia, but certainly they controlled the game and they made the plays when they had to, whether it's the kickoff return, the touchdown right before the half on the turnover, whatever. They are a solid football team. So you take a look at a team like that. Now that's a team that lost to Northern Illinois in week 2.
Yeah.
So you lost to a group of 5 team at home. It was an ugly loss. Everybody thought that you were dead. Well, that there goes the chance to make a run at the college football playoff. But yet at the end of the year, they are one of the hottest teams in the country. So I do think as you look at the regular season, that's the reason you can't judge a team in the middle of the year. You don't know what the team is going to do the second half of the year. You don't know, who's going to get hot, who's going to have that young player that, is coming into his own, or that offense, that new offense that's, you installed in the off season that's going to gel at some point in the second half of the season. It's who is playing best at the end of the year. Those are the teams that are going to do well in this playoff.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you look at the regular season, you can't just look at, the entire regular season. You got to look at how the teams are playing down the stretch. When you look at what are the 16 or 12 or however many best teams in the country, to formulate this playoff. I think that this playoff moving forward is going to continue just to be a big focal point for, we got to make sure that we get it right. And so I think, we really need, I've said it before and I'll say it again, we desperately need a commissioner of college football, just like the NFL. And then we need him to put together a committee. And this committee, they've really got to look at who's on this committee. It's got to be football people that know the sport, know the landscape. They're smart. They are unbiased. And their job is one that's, I don't know if it's year round, but it's certainly, the during the season is put together the best teams in the country for this college football playoff. And I think it is a big job, and it's not something that you got to try to remove the politics and you got to try to remove the bias, and you got to make sure that you get it right, where you have the teams that are playing the best at the right time of the year. That they've got to have the body of work. They've got to have the wins in their conference or against their schedule. But who are the best teams in the country when you get to this point in the year, when you put together who's in the playoff and who's not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, again, the SEC, the only thing that happened to the SEC this year is that they beat up on each other and they got punished for it.
Right.
And, you look at Alabama, who had 3 losses, South Carolina, who had 3 losses, Ole Miss, who had 3 losses. I think throughout this season, a lot of teams did not want to play Ole Miss. And I think at the end of the season, I don't know if anybody wanted to play South Carolina. And in the case of Alabama, you don't know what you're going to get. Alabama is historic, but they're also a little bit of a wild card right now. They have Kalen DeBoer. They don't have Nick Saban. So there is talent there. But the question becomes of, what is Kalen DeBoer's culture? How does that mesh with the culture that was there at Alabama? We know that Jalen Milroe is leaving for the NFL draft in a year that doesn't have a lot of quarterbacks. It's not a really deep pool for quarterbacks, so Alabama will have to figure that out as they step forward. But Alabama, still a dangerous team. And, if we did this bracket the way that we had it, BYU would be the first team out. BYU is a dangerous team. They tripped up a couple times, but BYU brought a lot to this season as well. Colorado was a team that went 9-3 that is ranked 23rd in the college football playoff final rankings. And Deion Sanders' crew was they were a school that were counted out early on in the season. They surged back and had themselves a tremendous season there and got to 9-3. And for people saying, "Oh, Colorado, 3 losses, this, that, whatever," I look at Colorado and say, before Deion Sanders came there, who knew who the mascot was? Who knew what conference they were in? Who paid any attention to Colorado? With no disrespect to Colorado, but the Deion Sanders factor is real. You don't get in prime time without prime time. So, You know, I mean, we're not even seeing these games on television. There's not even a national media watching Colorado, if not for Deion Sanders being their head coach. So, you know, when we really break this down and we take a look at it, and I'm looking at what this bracket would have been like we were talking about, I'm very hard pressed. And the committee, whether they admit it or not, in my opinion, this year said, if you have 3 or more losses, you're not getting in. The only one that got in was Clemson because Clemson won their conference
champion.
Right.
Right.
But they made them the 12 seed. And so I think what they were essentially saying is at large 3-loss teams don't get in. Conference champion 3-loss team barely gets in, and we put them at the end of this thing to tell Alabama, to tell South Carolina, to tell Ole Miss. If we're putting Clemson 12 out of 12, that's our way of telling you that at best you would have been 13th and 13 don't get in. That's what I think the committee did this year. But what I would argue back to the committee, you're telling me that a 3-loss Alabama, Ole Miss, or South Carolina is not as good as a 1-loss Indiana who didn't have a ranked win this entire season?
Right. I mean, that's where I say that SMU and Indiana getting in and Ole Miss, South Carolina, Alabama not getting in, I think that you're going to see if that's where they're going to do it, that's fine. You wait till you see what the schedules look like in 2 years. Because if I'm sitting in the SEC, my non-conference schedule, I mean, I'm going to have games where I don't even have to break a sweat. Yeah. Because you're giving no incentive for an Alabama to schedule a highly ranked non-conference opponent. You're saying basically the schedule does not matter. Yeah. And so I think that you're going to look up in a couple of years and you're going to see a different philosophy when it comes to scheduling non-conference games. So I think the committee has to be careful, and I think that the conference commissioners, they've got to really look at how they're scheduling. You know, Indiana did not face or did not have a ranked win because they did not face many ranked opponents. They did not have a challenging conference schedule. You could say the same thing for SMU. They did not have a challenging conference schedule. So, you know, that's done, you know, on purpose. But, you know, I think the conference commissioners really have to look at how they're putting together these, you know, conference schedule year in, year out. You know, again, I think you're going to have to go to more and more of looking at how the NFL puts together the NFL schedule each year. You know, they don't put it together a year ahead of time. They put it together in the off season, and they put it together, you know, a lot based on how the franchise performed the previous year. So I think there's lots of things that are going to go into this, you know, when you're looking at, you know, the teams, you know, what happened this year with Indiana and SMU getting in and those 3-loss SEC teams, which were, you know, you would say they're better football teams this year than Indiana and SMU.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. I mean, I think SM and the thing I don't understand about SMU with Miami is that Miami really didn't have a schedule that was tough based on the rankings and based on what people were seeing. But Miami was ranked higher than SMU consistently in the college football playoff. And you and I have talked about narratives, and the narrative of the college. I always tell people, look at the first college football playoff ranking of every season. Those are the teams they want in. And Miami was ranked so high, and they were ranked higher than SMU. And I'm sitting here saying, they're in the same conference. SMU is undefeated. Why is Miami above SMU? They didn't play. You know, it's not like they played all of these games where you're sitting there going, "Oh, they played this team that's 5th in the country, and they played this, and they played the toughest teams in their conference, and they did this and that." They hadn't played the toughest teams in their conference, and so Miami being ahead of, to me, was the power of the U. And it was
that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, we want Miami in there because Miami sells a lot of tickets, and if Miami gets a home game, and that's going to be huge for us, and all this stuff. But you look at that, and you look at the disrespect of SMU, and I'm happy that they got in because the narrative was against them to get in.
Right.
And then at the same time, to your credit, Ole Miss and South Carolina, I mean, we could have saw a 3-loss Ole Miss or a 3-loss South Carolina be in the Final Four right now. And if you can say that, then you can't leave those teams out. But then the question becomes, if you have 1 loss or less and you're guaranteed to get in, if it's written into law that Notre Dame can have 11 or 12 wins, never play a conference championship, never be in a conference, but as long as they get to 11, they're in, well, they're going to steal a spot from somebody. Granted, this year they're backing it up, but what does it say about Indiana? Nothing. What does it say about Oregon being undefeated and looking at their schedule this year? The reality of it all is I think we have to not just look at the record, but we have to look at body of work. And yes, there needs to be some type of respect for conference champions, or there's no reason to play a conference championship game. But there also has to there also has to be respect for the fact that the SEC beating up on each other shouldn't be something that punishes them, because if you put any of these conferences within the SEC, there's no way that Ohio State or Penn State or Notre Dame goes undefeated inside of an SEC schedule. And so, but that's I pose the question back to you. We're talking about all these things about change. What's the point of playing a conference championship if it didn't matter? So,
well, that's the thing. And that's what I was sitting here thinking the whole time is the committee had to put SMU in. They had no choice.
Yeah.
If they don't put SMU in, then you'll see nobody play a conference championship game next year. So they had to put them in this year. But my argument would be that what is the incentive to play a conference championship game?
Yeah.
I mean, Clemson had incentive this year.
Yeah.
But I don't know that anybody else did. So I don't know that you don't see conference championship games go away, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Now you're going to have somebody that's making a bunch of money off the conference championship game is going to lose their mind right now. But that's what is the meaning of that game when you look at the college football playoff. And my other argument would be that's one more game that you're adding to these players from a competitive hits, play, wear and tear. If the whole ultimate thing is to find out who is the national champion, and we're going to do it in a tournament style play, then what is the importance of a conference championship game? You figure out a way to use the regular season to determine the conference champion, seed everybody, and then play the tournament. You take that conference championship game out, because my other argument would be like, look at Army and Navy. Okay, now neither one of them are involved in the college football playoff. But Army wins the American. They play a conference championship game the next weekend against Tulane, dominate them, win the American Conference Championship. But then they've got to turn around the next week and play Navy. That's back-to-back weeks where they're playing a lot of wear and tear. Navy has multiple weeks to get ready for their biggest game of the year, and they dominate the Army-Navy game.
Yeah.
So that I would say that conference championship game this year for Army hurt them in their biggest game of the year, the Army-Navy game. And I would say that you could have the same thing happen with a Big Ten championship game right before the playoff, ACC championship game right before the playoff, whatever. Okay, so I don't know that the conference championship games are going to survive, the next couple of years. I may be wrong, but you got to figure out some way. You got to figure out some way to make it count for the conference champion, where there's incentive to play it. But you also got to find a way where it does not, negatively impact who loses that conference championship game, where, that team that didn't make the championship game, they're getting benefit from that team losing the championship game. South Carolina didn't play in the SEC championship. The teams that did play in it, Georgia and Texas, they shouldn't be penalized. Whoever loses shouldn't be penalized to the point that they drop below South Carolina. If that all makes sense. I think they've got to figure out where those championship games fit in this, playoff, format.
Yeah, well, they also have to look at the fact that, if you have 9 FBS conferences and you're going to have 10 again with the new iteration of the Pac-12, the question becomes, if conference champions, like, keep in mind in the NCAA tournament for men's and women's basketball, you win your conference tournament, you're in. So in the case of the American, in the case of the MAC, in the case of Conference USA, in the case of the Sun Belt, when we look at these, and then the PAC, whatever that ends up being, because now they're considered a group of, which I can't stand the moniker, but it helps people understand. When we look at that, if we say the SEC conference champion matters, the ACC conference champion matters, the Big 12 conference champion matters, the Big 10 conference champion matters, and Notre Dame not playing in a conference matters. So that's 5 spots right there. If you look at the rest of it and say the American's guaranteed nothing, the MAC is guaranteed nothing, the Mountain West is not necessarily, outside of Boise State at times, they're not guaranteed anything. Conference USA isn't guaranteed anything. The Sun Belt isn't guaranteed anything. And the new PAC isn't guaranteed anything. Then to your point, I don't see the point, and this makes me sad to say this, but to your argument, I don't see the point in playing a conference championship game if the American, the MAC, Conference USA, and the Sun Belt every year are almost never going to be regarded as being in the college football playoff, even if they go undefeated and even if they do win their conference championship. The Mountain West and the PAC, maybe the Mountain West can lean on they can't lean on Boise State anymore because they're going to lose them to the PAC. So the Mountain West is going to fall below everybody else. The PAC could try and talk about their history and get back into good favor with the college football playoff. But if we're looking at half of the country was not regarded in the 4-team college football playoff, and half of the country is not currently regarded in the 12-team college football playoff, then what are we saying here, Mike? Because essentially the American, the MAC, the Mountain West, Conference USA, and the Sun Belt didn't have a place in the 4-team outside of Cincinnati once. Right. They're not going to have a place in the 12-team, which has already been shown outside of Boise State, who's now joining the PAC. So did anything really change for the quote-unquote group of from 4 to 12 if playing a conference championship and having one loss or no losses doesn't really mean anything?
Well, I think as we talk about change, the other thing that I think is coming is you're going to see a divide. I think that the years of 130 some FBS schools, I think that's going to go out the window. I think that the autonomous 4, whatever you want to call them, okay, and I think that there are going to be teams that are in the autonomous 4 right now that are not going to be in whatever the new FBS is.
Yeah,
I think that you're going to see a separation. I think you're going to see what we now call the group of 5. I think that's going to become its own thing. Okay, I think that the top tier of the college football world, they're going to separate and they're going to have their own thing, whatever you call it. I think that you're going to have teams that are on the fringe, the bottom part of the current autonomous 4. I think you're going to see them fall back to the group of 5. I think you could see 1 or 2 top group of 5 teams ascend to that top tier. But I think you're going to see a definite divide in the next couple of years to where there's going to be a college football playoff, but it's not going to be with all 10 conferences and all 130 some odd FBS schools. It's going to be with the very top tier. They're going to play their own division, and they're going to have a college football playoff, and that's going to have a national champion. And then the group of 5 or whatever we're going to call them moving forward, they've got to figure out what they're going to do. And you heard some of the whispers, and listen, I was a part of the group that didn't want to hear the whispers because I was a part of the group of 5 having its own playoff. I think that is coming. There's no way that you can deny that it's coming. And then I think the whole thing is, look at FCS has for many, many years successfully played a regular season, had a playoff, and crowned a national champion every year. And they've done it successfully, and they have a formula for it. So, the NCAA knew how to do it with that group, figure out how to do it with this. But I think you're going to see a divide where there's not going to be 10 conferences that are in this playoff, moving forward.
You just said something, Mike, that speaks to a prediction that I made at the institution of the college football playoff. And as time, well, actually around, no, it was right around 2020. It was around COVID. And I was sitting here and I was looking at things and I made a bunch of predictions. I said that there is a world where I can see the SEC breaking away and being its own. There is a world that I can see after the Big Ten took Oregon and Washington, after taking UCLA and USC, that they, in my mind, no proof, but in my mind, that they spoke with the SEC and said, hey, whatever you're doing, count us in. We'll get the West Coast. We'll have everything except for like Idaho, Arizona area, but we'll have everything else coast to coast. Let's form our own combined. You do your thing, you play your tournament, we'll play our tournament, then SEC Big Ten play for a national championship. That world I saw. I spoke with John Swofford, the former commissioner of the ACC, years ago on 2 separate occasions and said, it's interesting you use the word autonomy. That's a legislative term. Power's a media term. Autonomy means self-governing. Have you and the other commissioners of the Pac-12 and the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 talked about one day just breaking away from the NCAA? He said, well, not right now, but it's not something that's off the table.
Right.
So there was that. Why are they autonomous? Why do they have a separate set of rules? Why are they calling themselves self-governing within a government of the NCAA? That was all done for a purpose. Then we see the SEC and what the Big Ten did, and I see that as serving a purpose. And then to your point, beyond all of that, I said there's going to be a Tier 1, a Tier 2, and a Tier 3 of NCAA Division I football, and that the FCS would essentially, in a way, be Division I AAA. The group of would be Division I AA, and we would have the SEC, the ACC, Big 10, Big 12. They would be Tier 1, or whoever would be Tier 1 Division 1A. So everything that you said, I have been rumbling before 2020, and then in 2020, I started to talk about there will be 3 tiers of college football, and there will be these conferences playing for College Football Playoff 1, then there'll be the other FBS playing for College Football Playoff 2, and then the FCS will function as it normally does with their postseason. You just echoed what I said 5 years ago. So you're in the room that's hearing the rumblings. I guess we're not too far off.
Well, and the thing is, I think that the next piece that's going to happen, the next ball that's going to drop, is this spring with the House settlement. The House versus the NCAA. That settlement's coming this spring. Probably around April or so. You're going to see, roster limits. You're going to see revenue sharing with the athletes.
Yeah.
That's the next piece that's coming. But what that's doing, it's going to be different at a Group of 5 school than it is at an ACC or Big 12 school. It's going to be different at a Big 12 or ACC school versus a Big 10 or SEC school because of the money.
Yeah.
That's going to continue to change. That's why I say not every autonomous 4 school right now, I don't see all of them being in that top tier. But I think the combination of NIL, combination of revenue sharing, the combination of I think the transfer portal is going to change again too. That's why I say you got to have somebody in a leadership position, and you have to have some kind of governing body that is separate from the NCAA. You've got to have someone that runs college football, because it is not an amateur sport anymore. This is not what college football was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Okay. This is professional football on a not quite NFL level, but we've got to run it like that. Because if we're going to start sharing revenue with the players, okay, I mean, you're compensating. Institutions are going to start compensating the players, okay? That's professional sports. That's what it is. And so we've got to structure it like professional sports, and we've got to treat it like professional sports. You cannot treat it like you've treated it for however many years, where we're calling these student athletes amateurs the way it was when I was playing. It's not the same animal anymore. And so we can't treat it that way. And so I just think that you're going to continue to see things change and evolve after this House settlement. That'll be the next piece. Then you're going to see whatever happens next year with the playoff. But we're not too far away from seeing the separation that you predicted back during the pandemic. All these things are pushing the top tier of college football more and more towards that professional model.
Here with Mike Houston on Wake Up Call inside of the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Mike, where does the Pac-12 end up? My other prediction, because my mother, growing up as a kid, when I came home from school, she watched General Hospital. And she said to me, you can either watch this soap opera or you can watch nothing while you do your homework. I'm happy that my mom had General Hospital on television, because what I learned from watching that soap opera is if you don't see something die, it's not dead. And if you see it die, it still may not be dead. The Pac-12 never got rid of its logo, never got rid of its name, and truly lived the soap opera motif of if you didn't see it die, it didn't truly die. Washington State and Oregon State are the only members of the Pac-12 right now. And I am in firm belief, again, I wasn't in the room, but I am firm belief of this, that when Oregon State and Washington State went to the Mountain West and said, we need teams to play, let's form this bond, and they got this schedule proposal and this schedule alignment, I thought, in my opinion, the only reason why these teams are doing this is so that they can poach. And credit to the Mountain West for, well, I shouldn't say the only reason. Once I see it, hindsight 2020, I'm looking at it going, yeah, they only got in that thing to poach when I got to take a look at it. The Mountain West was smart enough to put a poaching clause in this agreement and say, if you come in and you play us and you're not in our conference, but you're playing our conference teams, if you try to poach them, we're going to punish you by charging you for every single one you try to poach. Well, Washington State and Oregon State and the Pac-12 apparently didn't care about that because they still got money. So they end up taking San Diego State. You look at this and what the Pac-12, which is now the Pac-7 for 2026, here's the interesting thing about the future members of the Pac-12, what's called the Pac-12 right now, is we know that they are going to be adding a bunch of teams, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State, as well as Utah State, are all going to be joining the new Pac-12. Gonzaga is going to join for everything but football, leaving the West Coast Conference, a.k.a. the WCC. So they're taking all of these schools out of the Mountain West, essentially trying to kill the Mountain West. They didn't get UNLV. They didn't get Air Force yet, either one of those teams yet. But they got Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Utah State. And for all intents and purposes, Boise State has been the identifier of the Mountain West. At times, San Diego State definitely in men's college basketball, and Utah State has had their moments on the field as well. Basically, I think the Pac-12 should change their name to the Pac-State, because if you can only be in the conference in football if your last name ends in, if it ends in state. If you're San Diego State, if you're Boise State, if you got state in your title, then you can come play in the new Pac. So here's the crazy thing, and this is why I say the Pac is smart. And this is how I think the Pac, in a way, let itself die to rise again. The Pac lost teams to the Big Ten. They lost teams to the Big 12. When they were left with two, they had no TV agreement. Being in this wide open space, they made that scheduling agreement with the Mountain West. They went in, they got to know these schools. Because they were let in the building, they got to have more access. That access they turned into, hey, would you like to be a member? You bring in these teams by using your agreement with the Mountain West through scheduling. You utilize it to poach. You bring them in. As you bring them in, you're now building this back. What did the NCAA give them? They gave them a window until July of 2026 to get back to 8 in order to be an FBS conference in the football world. When are these teams joining? July 1st, 2026. So in my opinion, the Pac was like, okay, you know what? We're going to fight it. And then at a certain point, they say, okay, let it look like it's dead. We'll keep the name. We'll keep the logo. We'll make an agreement with the Mountain West. We'll bring them in. And as we bring them in, we got this 2-year window to play with. We only need one more school. Then we'll have a new rights agreement. And in this 2 years' time, they'll figure out the college football playoff. We'll figure out our seating. Could the Pac-12, which some people thought was dead, end up being extremely smart in essentially playing possum, looking like they're dead, getting a new agreement with new teams, new TV rights deal, and all in time for them to not only meet the NCAA requirement, but to also meet the requirement of whatever a new college football playoff is going to look like?
Right. Well, I think they're going to live. You know, that's obvious. And they're obviously not done yet. You know, who are the next teams they're going to add? Because they're not going to stop at 8. Okay. Right. They're going to add 12, however many. They're going to protect themselves. So, you know, where are those teams going to come from? And it's just going to continue to be the same thing we've watched over the last several years. They're going to pull from the Sun Belt. They're going to pull from Mountain West. They're going to pull from the American. They're going to pull from Conference USA. They're going to take whatever teams regionally fit the current teams they have, and they're going to build a 12-team or however many team conference. Okay, and then these other conferences, they're going to pull from. You know, it's the, you know, the tiered thing. It's, you know, who's on top, and, you know, they're going to pull from the teams below. It's just like the ACC did with SMU. Okay, just like the Big 12 did with UCF, Houston. Okay, just like Cincinnati. Okay. And it's going to continue to change. It's going to continue to evolve, and like the things, not to go back to what we were talking about just a minute ago, but change is not done at any level until you see the separation, okay, of that top tier from this next tier. And I think the Pac-12, I don't think they're going to be able to get back into the very top tier, but they're going to be right there with the rest of the college football FBS world.
So essentially, you and I are stating that we're seeing a world where the SEC and the Big Ten, at least, if not the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12, go off into Tier 1. And that Tier 2 is the new Pac, the American, the MAC, the Mountain West, Conference USA, and the Sun Belt. And then the FCS is the FCS. So here's my question to you. I don't disagree with you. I just add this caveat. And this is a prediction that I made years ago. I believe that the SEC and the Big Ten can go off on their own if they add just a few more names that would truly give them the right to say our champion is the national champion.
Correct.
Clemson, Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame. I think even if you take Miami out, Clemson and Florida State to the SEC, Notre Dame to the Big Ten, could close the door on this for good and make sure that the SEC and the Big Ten are able to build what they want to build completely separate from the NCAA. Your thoughts on that? In order for this Tier 1 to truly solidify, does Notre Dame have to join a conference? And does the ACC end up losing Clemson, Florida State, Miami, something of the like?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why I said a while ago is every team that's in the Eponymous 4 right now, they're not going to be in that top tier. You know, you're going to see Clemson, no doubt. Florida State, I'd say most likely also. Okay. Miami, I don't know. Okay. Definitely Notre Dame. There's no doubt. Notre Dame, 11 national championships, may get a 12th this year. They have to be a part of the top tier. My question to you is there anyone that they need from the Big 12, or does the Big 12 fall back to the group of 5 exactly the way most of the ACC is going to fall back? Yeah. Because most of the ACC and most of the Big 12, they are not going to be a part of this very top tier. And that's, a lot of people are going to hate to hear that because everybody wants to be a part of the top tier. It's what we fought in the American for so long, you know, trying to stay, you know, up there with the Power 5, okay? You know, because it's all about your branding and recruiting and all those things. But, you know, all that's changing. This is becoming professional football. So does that top tier need anyone from the Big 12?
Maybe BYU. Maybe. I mean, honestly, I don't think so. I mean, I know that Dion will fight for Colorado, and I know, BYU will try and push, but I don't think Oklahoma State, they'll try. I don't think Baylor is going to get it. I don't think Houston's going to get it. I don't think UCF's going to get it. I don't think Cincinnati's going to get it. I mean, based off of everything that you just said and what I'm thinking, and like I said, people don't want to hear this, but if the ACC loses Clemson, Florida State, and or Miami, I don't think the ACC and the Big 12 get included in whatever is going to become the top tier of college football.
Right, right. Because at the end of the day, it's going to all come down to who has the most money for this revenue sharing, and the bulk of that money from the revenue sharing is going to come from the TV contracts, and the TV contracts that the Big Ten and the SEC have are just so proportionally higher than anything the ACC or the Big 12 have, and certainly more than the American has. So I think you're smart, okay, because this is, I don't know what level those talks are at in the Big 12 or the Big 10 and the SEC, but I promise you they already have identified the teams that we are talking about that hey, we've got to have this one. You got to have Clemson. You got to have Notre Dame. You got to have Florida State. Okay. Certainly there's an argument for Miami because of their history. Okay. So we got to have those. Take those, add them in, but they're the only ones that are getting in because we're not sharing all this TV money with everybody else. Okay. And then you have the most money to share revenue wise. You got to put in some guardrails, some structure, some guidelines for the transfer stuff. Yeah. Okay. Because you got to protect the rosters. Okay. That's the other thing. I mentioned it earlier in our conversation. College football is no longer a 1 semester sport. Okay. It's a 2 semester sport. Okay. So the winter transfer portal window has to go away. It can't be there. You cannot have a transfer portal window that is open during the college football playoff. It's got to become a 2 semester sport. Okay. Have whatever your free agency, your signing time, whatever that is, do that in the off season.
Yeah.
Okay. But you got to protect the playoffs. Okay. I think the bowl games are going away also. I think the bowl games will become part of the playoff. That's it. Okay. But your traditional bowl games outside of the college football playoff, I just don't see how they can survive much longer. But the transfer portal window has got to go away in season. You can't have free agency in season because you got to protect the rosters to protect the integrity of the national championship. And so whatever this new tier is, okay, they're going to have the revenue sharing, they're going to have the structure, but they're also going to have guardrails in regards to transferring year to year, when the window's open, what the rules are for it. I think there's got to be some kind of contracts tied to this money and this whole system. Again, I go back to, you have to have a governing body, and that's the issue right now. Is there's no governing body. There's no leadership to put rules, okay, and accountability into this college football landscape right now and protect all the teams, okay, not just the top ones, but all of them.
Yeah. And we just got asked the question of, how do you get Notre Dame to join a conference without resorting to extortion? My response is the same response that I've had for years. There's a very easy way for college football to get Notre Dame to join a conference. And if they did this, I believe that they would join the Big Ten, because they're already treated like a Big Ten school. It's very simple. If you want Notre Dame to join a conference and you know that they're making 100% of their money and they got this revenue and this, that, whatever, all you have to do is do one thing. Tell them that they cannot qualify for the college football playoff and therefore can never win a national championship again if they don't join a conference. Right. That is the only way to get Notre Dame to say yes, is if you tell them you are not going to qualify without without the opportunity to play in a conference championship, or without a conference that you call home. You cannot qualify for the college football playoff. If they say that to Notre Dame today, Notre Dame, in my opinion, will be a Big Ten school tomorrow.
Right. No doubt. I mean, and that's, they've been able to, stay relevant and protect themselves all this time because they are Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They have the TV contract that's their own. Okay, so they're getting the money from TV. They were able to kind of bully their way with the ACC to find a home for all their other sports. Okay, so they're protected right there, but they've been able to stay, autonomous themselves because of their name. Okay, but all of a sudden, if all of a sudden, the big guys, they're playing this playoff and they're having this national champion, and you're not allowed to play in their playground, well, then that changes everything. Okay, you can look up and become irrelevant pretty quick. Okay, even if you are Notre Dame. Okay, so I think you're dead on. I think that they've got to include Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has to be included. They can't sit there and say, well, we're just going to stay on the outside and then we'll come in, when your tournament starts. They're not going to allow them to do that. Okay, again, all of this is going to be controlled by the conferences that have these TV contracts that can afford to pay the players. And so Notre Dame has to be a part of that, okay, in this new college football world whenever it gets formed. Okay, however many years it's going to take. But it's not going to take forever. But I also think you have to have Notre Dame. Notre Dame is, if not the most historic program in the history of college football, then they're on the very short list, okay? Because, you've got the very beginnings of college football, Newt Rockne, okay? All the national championships, Lou Holtz, okay? All the history, okay? All the great players, okay? You have to have Notre Dame be a part of this new college football world. So I think it's just a matter of time, but it'll work itself out.
Yeah. And it's simple. And they don't even have to say it to Notre Dame. Say it to UConn and anyone that's independent. If you are not a part of a conference by X date, you cannot qualify for the college football playoff. That is the only way to get Notre Dame to do it. Money ain't going to work. They got money. So there's no amount of money that's going to work. The only thing – so what are the two things that teams are looking for in today's collegiate climate? Money and access. Notre Dame has money. Take away the access, the money won't matter as much, and they will have to join a conference.
Right. And I think that everybody else, they'll figure their place out also. That's why I say there'll be another playoff. There'll be a playoff for this next tier also. Okay, but they'll be different. Okay, they'll be different than the top tier. The rules will be different as far as the paying, the monetary stuff, the whatever. But there'll be another playoff also, just like there is right now with FCS and Division II and Division III. Okay, each tier has their own playoff system. Yeah. So it's not like a UConn or a whomever. They don't have a chance to compete for a national championship. They do. They just don't have a chance to compete for the national championship at the highest level.
Yeah. And essentially, I don't think the college football playoff is going to look to lose money. So I called it College Football Playoff 1, College Football Playoff 2. Hey, we don't want to lose our links to the ACC and the Big 12 and all this. We're the College Football Playoff. So we're going to have two different playoffs. We're going to have rights to 100% of the content, because during COVID, at the beginning of COVID, what did then NCAA President Mark Emmert say, which I thought was insane? He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said this: I do not have, the NCAA has no jurisdiction over college football. I cannot tell a school or a conference that they have to play or that they can't play. I have no control. There is no czar. I have no control over college football. And my response to Mark Emmert in that situation was, you just admitted that you are the boss of nothing. So why do you make over $1 million a year? And if the college football playoff is running the show and the NCAA is not running the show, then why do I have to listen to the NCAA? If I'm Mike Houston and you suspend me 3 games, I'm not suspended. You told me you have no jurisdiction over me. If I'm a student athlete, if I'm Jeremiah Smith and I'm playing for Ohio State and they said you can't play the first 4 games, well, you're the NCAA. College football playoff is what runs this, not you. They didn't suspend me, so I'm playing. You keep talking about rules and parameters and some type of fence around this thing. I wrote a story about the NCAA a while back, and I said, unless we start putting a fence around the barn, we're going to be chasing the horses every night. And
right.
That's where we're at right now. So let's conclude with this, Mr. Houston. NIL and the transfer portal, only an absolute maniac or somebody born with half a brain would think that the NIL and transfer portal would not be used together as a package deal. The transfer portal was created as an avenue for student athletes to be able to move essentially in free agency from school to school with no care or desire to be a student, only an athlete. Now, the transfer portal is good in the essence of these points. Back in the day, a head coach could tell you, here's a list of schools you can't go to. You can't go to these schools because we're playing them. You can't go to these conference schools because they're in our conference. You can't go to these schools because I just feel like being a jerk. A coach could hand you a list. The ACC in some conferences, you had to sit out 2 years if you were able to transfer within conference, not even 1 year. So you had to sit out a year, which I didn't think was fair to the kids in the sense of what if it was a bad situation, so you apply for a waiver. So the 1 year throughout and no exceptions, that was a problem. 2 years in conference was a problem. The fact that a coach could hand you a list of schools, and I've talked to a student athlete who left Syracuse, and all the schools that the coach told him he couldn't go to were the only schools recruiting him. So that screwed him over of, I can't stay at Syracuse because this coach doesn't want me, and I can't go anywhere that does want me. So that was a problem. Coaches leaving, and after promising kids things and breaking that promise, that was a problem. In that essence, and all those reasons, the transfer portal is a good thing. Where the transfer portal is a bad thing is a kid going to 4 schools in 4 years, 5 schools in 4 years, 5 schools in 5 years, a kid running away from competition, a kid going to spring ball, going through spring practice, getting the playbook, and then getting in the transfer portal a day after the spring game and going to another school so I can leave Alabama, go to Florida, and give them the playbook, which goes to your parameters of when the transfer portal should be open. By the way, transfer portal tampering, I'm having coaches, head coaches, because you and I have a great relationship. I have relationships with coaches all over the country that have sent me messages saying, Dan, I am preparing for a college football playoff game, not a bowl game. That would be bad in itself. A college football playoff game. I'm fighting to win a national championship, and my student athletes, while we're practicing for the college football playoff, are getting messages from schools asking them to go into the portal and offering them money.
Yep.
While I'm preparing.
Right.
Then it comes out that Quinn Ewers, the Texas starting quarterback, before they even play in the Peach Bowl, that he was allegedly offered $6 million to get in the portal while he's practicing to go up against Arizona State. Problem. NIL.
No doubt.
So you look at the NIL.
There has to be rules. There has to be rules, and you have to. The portal windows cannot be in season. I mean, look at the other game last night that nobody watched. Because it was the afterthought. With the Sugar Bowl, but Ole Miss and Duke. Okay, Duke had a great year this year. Okay, Manny did a phenomenal job there in year 1. Okay, had a winning season. I think won 8-9 games. Make it to a bowl game, playing an SEC team. Well, his starting quarterback went in the portal, is gone. I think he played with his 3rd-team quarterback last night. Okay?
Yeah.
Now he's got another quarterback coming in for next year, but that didn't help him last night. Okay, and last night he had to play that game. No different from North Carolina and UConn a couple of last week or whenever it was. Played the game with their 3rd-team quarterback. Okay, then that kid gets hurt. Now they've got a true freshman, 4th-team quarterback in a bowl game. Okay, that's the other issue. That's why I say football has become a 2-semester sport. It's not a 1-semester sport anymore. Okay, So we've got to get rid of that portal window that's in the fall semester. Okay, allow the teams to. Hey, you're on. I'm big with this with my kids. Okay, you decide to play basketball. Okay, you're going to finish the year. Okay, you're going to play. There is no quitting in season. Okay, you don't want to play next year. Fine, don't play next year.
Yeah.
But you're going to play the entire season. That's something that we taught them when they were very young. Okay, same thing with this. You're a part of a team. Okay, you can play the entire season. Okay, but there is no leaving that team during the season and going to another team. Okay, just opting out. Okay, that stuff. Hey, if you don't want to play football anymore, okay, that's fine. But this stuff where you're having a battle to keep your players in season. That's why I say there's got to be some rules. Okay, there's got to be some contracts. Okay, if we want to pay the players, it's great. I think that there should be compensation. Okay, but there's got to be some accountability along with it that protects the integrity of the teams and protects the integrity of the season. Okay, yeah. I think you have to model it just like a professional league. Okay, and that's why I say there's got to be. You talked about there was no leadership. There has to be a commissioner. Okay, there has to be a governing body. Okay, college football is different from every other college sport. Okay, every college sport's different. Okay, college football is its own entity. So it cannot be treated like everybody else because it's different. Okay, you got to have a governing body that has power and has accountability. Okay, can figure out what does the revenue sharing look like? What's the salary cap? Okay, every team, you got your salary cap. Okay, NIL, that's a separate deal. Okay, it's a separate deal in the NFL also. Yeah. The quarterbacks, they make more money than the kicker does, or whatever. Okay, they've got different endorsements than the backup running back has. Okay, your endorsements are your endorsements. That's a different deal. But when it comes to the revenue sharing, there has to be contracts, there has to be rules. Okay, and the free agency, whatever that free agency time period is, okay, it's got to be outside the season.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you're probably going to see spring practice go away. I think you'll see OTAs. You'll see fall practice starting at a different time. Okay, you're going to see a lot of different things change, but we got to get the transfer portal window outside of the playing season. Okay, and that's the only way you're going to. And I think the tampering. You mentioned tampering a while ago.
Yeah,
it's out of control. I think that you've got to have someone that has power. Okay, and there has to be some accountability with the tampering. You got what's happened. What Jim Mora came out and said it the other day. Okay, that he had players that schools were tampering with. Okay, they hadn't gone in the portal yet. Okay, I had it happen to me at East Carolina. Okay, we had an SEC school that, I've got recordings. Okay, of a coordinator making a pitch to a kid that's on my roster. He's not in the portal. He doesn't want to go in the portal. He didn't go in the portal. But this guy made a whole recruiting pitch, money, all that stuff. Okay? There has to be some punishment. They've got to come down on somebody. Because if you don't, you get the speed limits on the highway. Okay? If there's nobody out there writing tickets for speeding, the speed limit sign is meaningless.
Right.
It's just a recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay? It has no power. There has to be some kind of governance that has some power. Okay? But all this stuff that you're talking about, we just got to clean it up because college football is too good of a thing. It's been too good. It's been tremendous to me in my life. It's been tremendous to so many people for so many years. It's such a big part of the sports landscape nationally. Okay, in this country. Okay, it's too good of a thing. Okay, and it's too good with these institutions. We got to clean up all the junk and stuff that's making it. It's really turning people off right now. Okay, we got to clean it up. Okay, and make it something that everybody can get behind, believe in, enjoy. Okay, and just make all the things that are good. Okay, let's focus on all that stuff. Okay, let's clean up all the stuff that we got issues with. So there has to be a governing body. There has to be a commissioner. Okay, that's where it's got to start. Okay, and then they've got to get control of all this stuff.
Yeah. NIL and the transfer portal have become a package deal. It has become free agency, and any rule that I knew or thought that I knew is not present. The UNLV team's 4-0. Player looks around, starting quarterback. He says, I'm going to redshirt myself. I didn't know you could redshirt yourself. I didn't know you could opt out of the rest of your season. And to your point, I mean, you look at the windows for the transfer portal. When the season's over, open the portal. You don't open the portal during the regular season, during the conference championships, during the bowl season. If you don't open up the portal during bowl season, you don't have third and fourth string quarterbacks playing. You know, if you don't open the portal during this part of the season, then you don't have all this stuff going on, calling college football playoff student athletes and saying, I know you're preparing to win a national championship, but I got $12 million sitting here from a dealership. It's absolutely insane. And you saying what you said about, you know, I have recordings of an SEC school making a pitch to someone on my team that's not in the portal. It's you. I can't. The coaches that have told me, the athletic directors, the reality of it all is if the NCAA had any control and they actually put their power into action, you would see a multitude of suspensions, money, getting docked, punishments. The NCAA used to salivate at getting a school in trouble. If they went out now and they had their whistle and their baton, almost everybody would be going to jail. And like you said, a speed limit on a highway is only a recommendation or a suggestion if there's no one there to enforce the rule. NIL and transfer portal were supposed to be treated as two separate entities. And again, only someone with the brain of a Tyrannosaurus Rex would think that these two things would ever be separate. They were going to be together. They were going to be used. NIL is used to make the transfer portal. NIL is the gateway drug to the transfer portal. And we're now living in a place where a lot of people are addicted, and we need somebody to come in here and clean up the streets and start putting people in jail for the punishment of having this NIL drug create what it's created for the transfer portal. I'm not saying student athletes can't leave. I'm not saying they can't move to a better situation. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be compensated. But as you and I have agreed upon, to open up this world with no fence, no police, only suggestions and recommendations, we're living in a world where, just like America today, you can shoplift and they can tell you not to, but you walk out the store and they watch you walk out of the store. If we're going to have rules in society, there needs to be punishments. A hand in the cookie jar being told to get out is not going to get out unless that hand gets slapped and that hand gets put upstairs for a timeout. So you and I are in agreement, Mike. I have two questions for you. One, I would love, well, it's more of a statement. I'd love to have you come back because these conversations that you and I have are so incredibly energetic for me, and they push me to challenge myself. And you've been on the inside of a lot of these things and you know a lot. So this coach's corner that we're having, I would like to have you back more often. That's one. Because we started doing that with East Carolina, and now I can do whatever I want because you're a free agent. So, and so that's number one. And number two, if you do take a head coaching job somewhere, can you at least consider me? That's all I ask.
Absolutely. Now, I'll tell you, one of the first things I'll do with my next job is I'm going to have a general manager to help with all this stuff. So that might be a place for you right there, because it's got to be somebody that has some foresight and has some ability to think and manage these rosters and stuff. So I think you're gonna have a lot of opportunities on new staffs moving forward. But no, I enjoy this because I've been able to watch more football this last month or so outside of my own team.
Yeah.
And not just college. I've watched a ton of NFL, and I've really enjoyed that also. But I've been able to watch more football around the country, okay, and just and still, I mean, I'm still staying engaged with my contacts and stuff, and so I've just been able to see just a more big picture. Because when you're the head coach at a university and you're involved in your season, I mean, you have no idea what's going on outside of the walls of your office. I mean, you're just so focused on your team week to week and who you're playing week to week. You really don't know what's happening in the rest of college football to a degree. You're focused on what's happening with your team and your opponent and your conference and all that week to week. So you do maybe can't take in everything in its totality. So I have enjoyed these interactions because it allows me to talk about some of the things I'm seeing and hear some of your perspective, because you're looking at it from a different lens than I am, and I've always said that if you don't have collaborative conversations, dialogue, and see perspectives from different people sitting in different chairs, I say this to my staffs too. I want to hear your perspective, because me, the way I look at it, offensive coordinator, the way he looks at it, defense coordinator, the way he looks at it, the defensive line coach, the way he looks at it. Okay, we all, if we're in this profession, okay, and if we're good at what we do, okay, we should have some, insightful, really, good thoughts and perspectives on whatever we're discussing. Okay, and we're all going to see it from different lenses because of how we look at it and our experiences and what we're looking at. So I think these conversations are fantastic. So, I'd be glad to be on, whenever we can get together. So, but it's going to be an exciting week next week. Okay. You're down to 4. So it's going to be exciting to see how that progresses.
Yeah. And by the grace of God, I will be back at the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. So I will see half of this. I will see Texas and Ohio State. Obviously, I'll be watching and what's going to happen with the Orange Bowl between Penn State and Notre Dame. So I will see, bare minimum, half of who makes it to the national championship, and it is going to be a great run to get there. The games are going to be next Thursday, January 9th, and Friday, January 10th, which will determine who's playing for a national championship in the expanded historic 12-team college football playoff on Monday, January 20th, which is also Inauguration Day. So it's going to be an interesting day in the country.
Big day.
Yeah, big old day. So with that being said, Mr. Houston, you will be back sooner than you think. We'll talk about it after this, and you and I will keep in touch, but definitely appreciate you, our friendship, our bonds, and more than anything else, you being the person that you are. First thing you said to me today, how was your Christmas? Because you keep the main thing, and I definitely thank you for that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you too, Dan. Thanks a lot. Enjoy your time down at the Cotton Bowl.
I will. Well, you take care of yourself, be well, and be excited that, at least for right now, you as a head coach don't have to deal with any of the problems we talked about.
No doubt.
Take care.
Take care.
You too.
Have a good one.
You too. See you later. That coming from Mike Houston here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. As we in Liverpool, New York, and you can go there Monday through Saturday and let them know that DT sent you, or you could say, I heard it on Wake Up Call. Go and see Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, our exclusive studio partner, Monday through Saturday. We look forward to seeing you out there for your new and used rides to bring home today. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where He just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Brian's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Brian's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business. I had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees, and as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York, to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There's a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really change the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machines, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machines. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com.
this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jim Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. You will find at GG Cards and Breaks Disney Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, hockey, soccer, baseball, basketball, football, and more while supplies last. They have singles, they have graded cards, packs, boxes, one-of-ones potentially. They also have autograph cards, RPAs, which stands for Rookie Patch Auto. They have extremely amazing, rare, cool, unique, I gotta bring it home and show all my friends types of cards. They have that stuff that you're going to keep forever, and they have that stuff that you might keep for a little bit, right? You might get it and then have somebody who's a huge fan and say, all right, this is going to be great for a trade because they got something I want. So I'm going to go get this card, and I know they want that, and then we're going to trade. We're going to have a great time. And speaking of trades, GG Cards and Breaks every single month throughout the year has trade night. And the trade night is at the store, and it's also at the Wildcat 4 times a year, once a season, spring, summer, fall, and winter. And we're going to have our GG Cards and Breaks trade night at the Wildcats on the 16th, which is a Thursday. It's going to be from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., and that's going to be at the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. January 16th, a Thursday, starting at 6 p.m. and going till 9:30. We look forward to seeing you out there for great food, great community, and just a great experience of collecting cards together. The card world is something that's always been huge in my life. It's something that I have had in my life since I was a little kid, and I have an amazing family, my grandparents, my parents that would come out with me to collect cards and just be making these memories with me. I look around this room inside of my studio and I see all these cards that I have, and a lot of them coming from GG Cards and Breaks in the last 2 years. And it's just something that I love. I love to buy, I love to sell, I love to trade. And it's built a community. It's built fun, and it helps me stay a big kid, which I think every great adult, every adult that you meet that you really consider to be a great person, that kid spirit never went away. And GG Cards and Breaks keeps it alive. And that's one of the many reasons why I love going there. And the main reason is that Josh, Anthony, and the crew, they're big kids. They love to collect. They love to open things. They love to treat every day like Christmas morning. And they love to see you get good stuff. So with all the great things that have happened at GG Cards and Brakes and everything that is to come, I want to thank Josh. I want to thank Anthony. I want to thank the entire team at GG Cards and Brakes on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, for helping me to keep my kid's spirit alive even more so, and for creating new memories for families all around central and upstate New York, and to everybody that travels in town, Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, and on Sundays from 10 to 5. With that being said, I want to thank you all for tuning into this edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the beautiful, wonderful Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City here with us Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And here in 2025, have taken our partnership of over a decade and expanded to become our exclusive studio partner. That's Great Lakes Honda City with those fantastic and famous Honda products, the HRV, the CRV, the Accord, the Civic, the Pilot, the Passport, the Ridgeline, and so on and so forth. What a wonderful, wonderful group of vehicles they have at Great Lakes Honda City, new and used. It's where I get all my vehicles of over a decade. And so I wouldn't tell you to go somewhere that I don't go. And the only dealership that I go to in central New York of many, many years, over a decade, has been Great Lakes Honda City. So I look forward to sending you over there and let them know that DT sent you. Say, I heard it on Wake Up Call, or DT said to come over here and check out what you have. Great Lakes Honda City. Want to thank the entire team over there. Much appreciation. Elijah, Mark, everyone there at Great Lakes Honda City. Many, many thanks to each and every single one of you for being a part of this journey for me and being a part of what I do. So can't thank you enough for that. Truly appreciate it. And looking forward to everything we're going to do together in this partnership as we move forward here with Great Lakes Honda City, our exclusive studio partner, open Monday through Saturday on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Many thanks to however you're connecting with us on youtube.com, facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Thank you for tuning into the show. Up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around this spinning rock that God calls Earth. Happy to be here with you. Once we go live, we jump into the archives. We're going to be on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube for your listening pleasure. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Make sure on your favorite podcasting platform to hit subscribe, follow. It's all free. Make sure you do that today. And many thanks to our incredible partners. Thanks to Brooklyn Pickle down in North Kakalaki, North Carolina. We appreciate you, Brooklyn Pickle. 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, right down the road from Pinehurst Golf Course. And many thanks to our incredible team here in central and upstate New York. Of course, our studio partner, Great Lakes Honda City, Carvel, DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Servomation, Mother's Cupboard, Brian's Landing, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, GG Cards and Brakes, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, Canine Kampground Dog Boarding, Chick-fil-A, Cicero, Pizza Man, and we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Moyne College Dolphins. It's fins up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Dolphins during Dolphin Time, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time weekly. You will find the Dolphins right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You'll find our content of 3+ years by going to youtube.com/WakeUpCallDT. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and look for our Moyne Dolphins playlist. Student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni call Wake Up Call home in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with The Heights, that being Moyne College. You could find out more by going to LeMoyneDolphins.com, and you can also catch the Dolphins on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You'll find the Bobcats every single month with men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer, and baseball all throughout the year. Fantastic coaches, fantastic student athletes, and fantastic programs all together vying for and winning national championships. Much appreciation to the Bobcats, who you'll find by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our BSC Syracuse playlist. You also find the Bobcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bearcats every single Tuesday, weekly Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You will find the Bearcats during Bearcat Time, featuring throughout the year conversations with Gene Marshall, the athletics director of Binghamton University, called Moments with Marshall, and our Bearcat Break Room with student athletes, coaches, and administration joining me to tell their stories and their journey to Binghamton, what Binghamton has taught them, and where they are going from here with that awesome education as well as their time as a student athlete. You'll find the student athletes, coaches, and administration all on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the Binghamton playlist. Your Bearcats are also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. That being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. I want to thank Carvel DeWitt for the annoying moment of the week, Chick-fil-A Cicero for lead, learn, evolve, ad-lib, and deliver. Please, and I'm talking to myself too, trust in God's timing. Top Dog of the Week brought to you by Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Kampground Dog Boarding. Today honoring Marcus Freeman and his staff with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish for their resiliency, their tenacity, and their belief and faith in themselves and each other. Big time thanks to Mike Houston, who joined me for College Football Playoff, NIL, and Transfer Portal Talk, the longtime FBS collegiate football coach and a good friend of mine, Mr. Mike Houston. And that was one of my favorite conversations of all time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And many thanks to all of you for being a part of the show. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. And I can say it again, and I'll say it proud right here on Wake Up Call. Thank you for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, worldwide inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Have a beautiful day. God bless. No stress. Do your best.